So I was asked a few questions today about how to draw in the typical section. I know some of you have already got this done and are working on it. If you're not that familiar with Autocad and weren't sure what I meant, I guess I'll just do this little tutorial to give you a head start. A lot of you learned Autoscope. A lot of you learned MicroStation before, and it's not that much different in AutoCAD, but tools are in different places and the icons look a little different, but it's kind of the same idea. And I think, honestly, a little practice, you'll probably get used to AutoCAD pretty quickly. It's not, I guess my experience has been it's not that hard to transition between the two. But I thought I'd give you a little help in that category to get started, some basic drafting stuff on this. So for drawing the typical section, yes, I would do it in AutoCAD, not in either of the drawings I had given you before. Those are for the design purposes, and then for doing the sheets. I would just start a new drawing. So what I've got here before you is I just open up AutoCAD, and this is just a blank drawing. And so I'm gonna get started with it. I guess first thing is I'd give it a name, right? So I'm gonna do a save as, and I'm gonna I guess I'll just drop this on my desktop for now, and we're just going to call this tip section, and save. Then to get started, so I'm in model space. That's where we draw most things, and then layouts are where we actually create the sheets. And all of your text and all your dimensions are typically in paper space on the layout tab. So in one of these tabs, you can make different sheets, different sheet sizes. You have multiple layouts. And all of the base drawing is in the model space. So all of your line work is in model space. And then later on, we're going to put all the text and all of our dimensions in the layout, on the paper itself, on the sheet itself. Right, for that. So to get started, you can pick a layer, and so you can use 0 if you want. That's fine. That's the default layer. Normally, it's not the greatest way to do it is to use 0. We don't typically use that as our drafting layer, but this is, we're doing one typical section. It's not going to hurt anything, right, for that. You can be fancy and put all the different layers of your asphalt on different AutoCAD layers if you wanted to, but there's no point to do it. So I'm just going to start with a line, and I'm going to start just drawing an ortho, and it automatically snaps into ortho mode here. So I'm just going to draw some I'm just going to draw some construction lines to get me started. So there's a line, and if I know, okay, my lane width is about 12 feet wide, so I'm going to do the offset command. This is this command here. You can just type offset. I'm going to click offset, and I'm going to type in 12 feet, and I'm going to pop over 12. All right, so that's 12 feet. So I want to zoom in a little bit. I was a little bit far out from there. And where's my starting point? Well, I can draw that in. All right, so I'm going to do a line again. Where I'm going to snap. My snaps are set that perpendicular is on, and you can change all those settings down here. So I have turned on all these snap settings, and so perpendicular is turned on. That's why it automatically jumped over and tried to give me a perpendicular line. It gives me a little right angle symbol. That's how I know it is, and I'm going to cancel that line. So I've drawn that in, and so now, so at 12 feet, what's the slope of the pavement? Usually it is 2% on that line, and so at 12 feet times 0.02 would be 0.02 or 0.24, and so I know it's going to drop 0.24 feet in a run of 12 feet. And so now I'm going to offset this line, 0.24. I'm going to offset it to down here to the bottom. There it is. That's how far it'll drop. And now I can draw in between this point and that point. And that will be the top of my pavement layer. And boom, there it is. And I'm done. And I can delete now these construction lines. I don't need those anymore. That's half of my road, the top surface of it. And we're going to draw half the road, and then we're just going to mirror it to the other side and make our life easy. So the next thing is, how wide is your shoulder? Let's say you've got an 8-foot shoulder. I think most of yours is probably bigger than that. I'm going to use 8. Right? So I'm coming over 8 feet. Well, what's the slope on my shoulder? Maybe it's 4%. That's a pretty common slope for shoulders. Paved shoulder would be 4%. So 8 feet times 0.04, it's a drop of 0.32. All right, so I'm going to do the same trick I did before. I'm going to start here. I'm going to snap to the end of that line using the endpoint snap. Perpendicular, cancel. I'm going to offset this now. I'm going to offset 0.32. because that's the drop. It's how much it'll drop over 8 feet at 4%. All right, hit escape to get out of the command. Come back here, draw a line, create line, snap to that point, snap to that point, cancel out of the command. Delete these guys. Don't need those anymore. All right, there we go. So there's my shoulder, and now let's say I've got unpaved section after this. Sometimes you have an unpaved shoulder section. Maybe that's an extra foot at the same slope. Not sure what you've got or what you're going to come up with in your design criteria. But let's say we're now going to go 6:1 for maybe 20 feet. That's maybe our clear zone distance, right? So I'm going to offset 20 feet from this vertical line. I'm just using these things for dimensioning and for construction lines, and then I erase them later when I'm done. And now I'm going to start here, right? Create the line. I'm going to jump over horizontal again and cancel. I'm going to offset now, and I went 20 feet, and I'm going at a 6:1 slope. So what's 20 divided by 6 is 3.33. So I would drop 3.33 feet in that distance. So I'm going to put in 3.33. Right, yeah, that probably looks right. It's going to be much steeper than a 4% slope. All right, so there's my 6:1 slope over here. Cancel. Now I can get rid of these construction lines. I can get rid of this line. I can get rid of this line and this line. Right, so that's one side of my road, and not quite. Now I've got pavement layers, and I told you we're going to do 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches. That's for our surface, HMA surface. So if I'm going to draw these layers in, I get 1.5 inches. I'm going to divide that by 12 because that's how many inches are in a foot. That's 0.125 feet. And so now I'm going to offset this 0.125. Type that in. And both my main lane pavement and my shoulder pavement both have that at the top. For my main line, then I think I have a 3-inch, which is 0.25 feet of intermediate. So there's that, and then I think I have a 6-inch base layer, HMA base, which is 0.5 feet. So I'm going to offset 0.5, and there it is. So those are my layers for that. And then I think I've got a 3-inch, maybe it's a 3-inch layer over here underneath the shoulder. If it's not, put in whatever value you're using for your shoulder. So that's a 0.25. I'm going to offset that. There we go. All right, so there's my pavements, and this is going to have a break on it. And maybe sometimes we draw these in at an angle. If we want to go 45, all right, cancel. And now I can do the fillet, and I'm going to do radius 0, trim, and I can just smack those together. So there's my bottom layer of my asphalt. You can show this as a vertical. We used to draw them that way as a vertical line, and then we're like, well, that's not, we don't, usually they spill out a little bit in construction, and we don't want a vertical line on the edge for safety. We really want the contractor to swing them out a little bit, so we show them more at a 45-degree angle now. You can still show them vertical. In this case, it's just a typical for there. We'll show this right. Particularly the top layer is the one that we're really worried about for that. So I made that, drew that in at 45 degrees. All right, I'm going to fillet this one here now. Right, and then I'll take care of the bottom. And now I'm going to trim off. Actually, I'm going to extend. I go here, click extend. I'm going to use, and then click that. There we go. Escape. I'm done with my command. There we go. There's my layers. All right, for that. And quite often we change the type of material between the shoulder and and the main line pavement. So that would show that difference there if you want to draw a line in there. All right, this could be a higher quality asphalt. This is a lower quality asphalt on this side of the line. If they're exactly the same, then you wouldn't show a line. If they aren't exactly the same, we could show it that way. Right. And quite often our shoulder is a slightly different depth. It doesn't quite line up with where the intermediate layer is on the mainline pavement. I was guessing, and that's how we ended up there. So, all right, that was my guess. on that. So now we've drawn half of this, and you could actually, we could draw in the back side of this, you know, of your ditch. Maybe you want a 4-foot flat bottom ditch. And so as I'm drawing this, it's snapped in 0, and I'm just going to type in 4. It'll automatically do a 4-foot. Well, isn't that nice? All right. And now I'm going to draw over here. I don't know what angle a 6-to-1 slope is. So let's just draw that this way. Vertical, I'm going to offset this. Let's do a 4-to-1 slope. I'm going to offset this 4 feet now. All right. And then I'm going to draw another line in here. And I'm going to offset that 1 foot up. And I'm going to draw that in. There we go. And I don't need these construction lines anymore. They're gone. And you can extend this out if you want to, but that's a 4-to-1 back slope. And here's a 4-foot bottom side ditch. Quite often we start at 6-to-1 and then we'll drop at a 4-to-1 even faster and have our side ditch. Right? It's kind of your choice. This would probably be a harder one to build because this is a really long 6-to-1 slope. It's going to be harder to get it to fit into your environment, right, for that. A lot of times in that we'll go the first 10 or 12 feet of 6-to-1 and they drop to a 4-to-1. Yeah, which might be a better solution for it, right? My point isn't to show you exactly how to draw your cross section. It's just to show you how, your typical section. And so you probably want to adjust this to your own dimensions and how you want to do it. All right. So now I've got that done. I'm going to mirror this. What do I want to mirror? I have to select objects and then mirror all that. Hit spacebar to accept that selection. And now what's the line I'm going to mirror about? You pick 2 points on this line, which we left in there just for that. Erase source objects? No, don't erase those. And there we are. All right, so now you've drawn that. I'm going to get rid of this construction line because it was way too big to start with. So there's my typical section. And it's probably not the one you want, but it's close. It's a good one. It's not bad. All right, it's a quick way to draw a typical section. All right, and this is your line work. This is your base lines. And now we want to jump over and we want to label this and put dimensions in it. So we're going to come to our layout sheet. And here looks like an 8.5 by 11, but we can change that if you want later on, but that's good enough for now. And so this is called paper space, and if you jump into the second in the middle here, that's called model space. And if you scroll in and out with your middle wheel, right, you can see a little dot in there, that will zoom you in and out inside that viewport. This is our viewport here, and there is my drawing. It's right in there. For that. And if I click out here, I'm back in paper space, and now if I zoom in and out, it zooms the whole paper, the whole sheet. If I double click in here and it turns into a darker, thicker border line, now I'm just zooming inside. All right. And I can set the scale here exactly by dropping over here. Maybe I want to do a 1 inch equals 10. Ooh, it doesn't fit. All right, so let's do a 1:20 scale. Now that fits, but now it's super small. All right. Not great either way. Not a great solution either way. I'm going to blow this up a little bit. There we go. Just to make it look good. Now you can fix this by making a larger paper size. And we can do that by right-clicking here, doing Page Setup Manager. And this is my layout tab I'm on now, layout 1, right? And I'm going to modify that. What's my plotter? I'm going to switch this over to Adobe PDF. You probably don't have that. You do have this. You do have DWG to PDF, so it's a drawing to PDF, so that'll make a nice PDF for it. And let's change our paper size so we can scale this thing up and make it look better. And our normal is Architectural D, which is a 24 by 36. We're going to do the layout. We're going to scale line image because we like that. And what's our plot style? We're just going to choose, for the now, we're going to choose monochrome, which is black and white for that. And everything else looks great. Maybe click OK. All right, so now you can see what it did is it made my paper a lot bigger. Now it started, this is the 11 by 17 size, and now it has made it into a big 24 by 36, which is design plan size. And I'm going to make my viewport bigger so it fits all of that. And great. Hit escape to get out of that command. Now if I pop in here, now I can make this thing huge. Look at that. All right, and when I dimension it and label it now, it's going to look better. And now I can pick probably 1 to 10, which is a good scale for typical sections. Ooh, even that looks a little small, but we could probably do even a 1 to 5 is not in here. 1 to 1 is not going to work. So maybe 1 to 10, we'll leave it at 1 to 10. This is a small dimension one. All right. And for now, we're just going to leave it. Right. You can get crazy with it and you can change that. You can add other dimensions in there if you wanted to. This will be good enough for us for that. And so now I'm in paper space. I want to make sure this says paper and I'm not in model space. If I double click this, that puts me inside of it. I'm in model. You don't want to be there. You want to be in paper if we're going to add dimensions and labels now. All right. And so that doesn't change the scale when I scroll in and out now. And then we're going to go over to home. I'm going to jump over here to annotate. And let's add some linear dimensions and we'll see if our scale is set up right. And it may not be, but we're going to try it. So I'm going to add a dimension from there to there. Ooh, it looks too big. It looks way too big. Yeah, all right. So we're going to undo that. U or Control Z, and that'll undo that. Let's check what we're set for. And so we're going to come to dimensions, push this little arrow here, and that pulls up the manager. And for some reason we are in standard overrides. I don't know, we're going to set current. So we're going to go standard, close. Now let's see if we can see if it looks any better. We may still have to fix the scale on it. Oh yeah, that's much better. Except now we've got weird extra digits because that's in standard dimension. Let's go and fix that. Standard, modify. All right, we can come in here. That size looks great, I think. And so we're going to go to units. I think it's under units. We're going to round off. Typically, we round to 0.1 in feet, and our precision is also going to be to that. So we're going to round to 0.0, and I don't really want it to be. Well, that's just how it's going to be. This is the one we really need to fix that. We want it to be 0.0. I like decimal. I don't like inches. Unit. Typically for engineering, we don't use feet and inches unless you're a bridge designer. Then you like 16ths for some unknown reason. But highway people keep everything in decimal feet when we go to the nearest 0.1, typically, unless you're doing stations or elevations, and we go to to the hundredths place, 0.00 for that. And looks good. I think that all looks good. Text, you can change your text style. We don't need to get too fancy. Yeah, we're just going to do standard. We'd have to change the whole style if we wanted to. You can change your size of it here. This is based off your plan sheet size. That's a good size. I like that size. I'm going to keep that. Symbols and arrows, you can change how all that looks if you wanted to in there. I think everything really looks pretty good, I think. All right, and so we're going to click OK. And that was standard, and we're going to click close. Well, let's change it. Fix it for us. There's our 12-foot. I like it. And now let's do the next one. We're going to do linear. We're going to come down. We're going to snap that. We're going to snap there. I like it to line right up, but now that thing is in the way. And we can move that if we want to up there. All right, for that, I don't know why the arrows didn't go on the inside there. Well, I think they're a little too big for it. So there's our next dimension through there. And then normally we would also do when it's linear. We would also do both sides and just show that they are literally the same. It's nicer if they line up. Our leaders are a little bit too big, or our text size is a little too big. We can fix that. We know how to fix that. Jump in over here. If we want to change our text size, we can drop this. Let's do 0.10. It's going to probably look a little small, and close. Oh yeah, now it's going to line up. Now we're in business. All right, click that leader, drop it down here, tag it there. There we go. Yeah, that's more like what we normally show for that. So there's our labels, and we're going good now. And we can put one more in here. Here's our linear. Snap arrows, and I'm going to click right there to snap it to that. There we go. And it's, come on. You can just click it, hit the grip, and you can drag it to where you want the label to be. I want it to be in between. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. Now we need to add some labels, what's going on here. So I'm going to use multi-leader. That's a good way to do it. We have to tell it where the profile grade is, right? That's one of the things we have to label. I'll pop up here, and I'm going to say that's the profile grade. It's right there. And it labels it for us. And what's this thing? Well, that's our alignment line. And so I'm going to point to the line and say this is alignment. I called mine PRJ in the other video, so I'm going to label this so that you know from this typical section that is that alignment. And what is this? Let's put a general text note under it. So I'm going to use multi-line text. Go over here and drop it in there, and I'm going to say typical section line PRJ. All right. Yeah, maybe I don't like how that looks. Right. I can highlight that. I can center it. I can use a different. I don't want simplex. Maybe I want something fancy. You know, we could do something fancier. And then I used to use Century Gothic a lot. Let's use Century Gothic. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? So and that's just a general text node. We can click it once, and then you can drag it if you want to move it around. There we go. Right, so there's our typical section line PRJ, so people know what you're looking at now. Later on, you could add in the station numbers. We normally did. We'd say this is our typical section between this station and this station, because quite often it changes as we go. Now, yours is not likely to change, and it's fine. And we can just leave that. You can add labels in here. We can add a general label in over here, and we can say that this is a 4-to-1 slope over there. So there's our 4-to-1 slope. I can click that. I don't think that rotates it. Nope, that doesn't rotate it. I can use modify, and I can, well, come on. Home, under the modify commands. Under here should be a rotate somewhere. There it is. There's rotate. What am I rotating? I'm rotating that. Base point, and I can drive this thing around. That looks like it's lined up. I like to keep it lined up with the, and then click it once, and it's going to drag it up here so it is above the line and not on the line. There we go. So there's my slope. And that looks a little big. That looks a lot big. So I'm going to, oops, come on. Zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to change the size. It's at 0.2 right now. Let's make it 0.1 like all the rest of those. There we go. So there's my slope. It's a little bit too far off the line. There we are. So that's how I could label that. For that. So that's a quick way to label it. You can label your clear zone on here. You can label what this is. This is your ditch. You can show the width of the ditch and all your other dimensions. And that's really what we're getting to. That's really what we're aiming for, the typical section. If you want to get fancy, you can label, add in a note over here, an annotation text over what your pavement is. And so this is, well, it's actually, 165. If you label it like the sample, pounds per square yard, HMA surface. Oh, I did not spell that right. Surface. All right, and we make this bigger. Come on. Way bigger. HMA surface, the size is all wrong. This should also probably be a 0.1 size. Easy to say on 330 pounds per square yard HMA. So I think I sent you an email that says what these should be on 660 pounds per square yard HMA base. Right, there it is. And so that's your pavement section. And a couple ways you could show that. You can give it a letter number and show that over here. You could just add a line above it and just say mainline pavement. Or you can add in an arrow. You can point to it and bring it over here and just drop it and then don't type anything. Just click off. Oh, now we've got an arrow. Mainline pavement. And that's our mainline pavement. Maybe you can show the separate pavement for the shoulder then if you wanted to as well. Right, so that's how you could add some labels in there. Again, you've got a sample of the typical section. You could put a circle here and show this as K. It's usually what we call the mainline pavement section. Over here you describe what K is and put the call out circle on it, which is, you know, a slightly, I guess, advanced type of leader is putting the circle in there. All right, that should really be it. All right, make sure you save it, and then you're good to go. And you can, for your submittal, right, I would just like to see this picture, and you can just copy it and paste it as is, or you can put the entire, you can print this then. And when you print this, yeah, we don't want a batch plot, right? It brings up this pavement layout. We've set all that. Let's see what it's going to look like. It's going to look like this when you're done. And you could include that as part of your submittal. Now later on you can make a nicer looking sheet with the title block and all that, but for now that's fine for that. And we're going to cancel. We're not actually going to print it. And if you did print it, it'd create a PDF, and then you can include that PDF in your submittal, right, for the design criteria. All right, that should be a good start for how to do the drafting part of the typical section.